Hey guys, it's Zach. Today we're going to talk about how to manage a marketing agency that you hired, especially if you've been burned before or if you don't want to waste thousands of dollars on vague reports and no ROI. I've worked with a few dozen agencies. Some are great, some I wish I had never worked with at all and I could just erase from my memory. This is the framework that I use to keep agencies aligned as well as accountable and producing actual results. Part 1, you've got to set the ground rules before work starts. And this is where most people make the mistake of thinking that once you hire an agency, your job is done. That's wrong. Really, that's when the management starts. For one, you've got to set goals. So it's not grow our brand. You have to have very specific goals, such as get your cost per lead under $50 and then drive 50 leads per month. You've also got to have a split of responsibility. So who is writing copy, who's designing the actual ads, who's approving the landing pages. If that's all on the marketing agency to write that stuff, that's great. But you have to have some sort of approval process where you're involved in it. Cadence, you'd also want to set like what are your meeting points to review analytics, make sure that things are going well. Is that weekly check-in? Is it bi-weekly? What gets reported and when? And then on top of that, reporting format. You want to know going into it, how are you actually going to get your metrics reported to you? Is it going to be a breakdown of your cost per acquisition? Is it going to be your ROAS that's in the report, as well as like what is the granularity of all of it? Really, before the first dollar is spent, you want to make sure that all of these are agreed on, and they need to go into, ideally, the contract with the company. So then part 2, let's talk about metrics. So this should be in the reporting that they're giving you, as well as something that you're going over on those weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly meetings with them. And for one, you need to understand your CAC, which essentially means what is your cost per acquisition of a single either lead or customer. So if we're talking about CAC in regards to a customer acquisition, let's say that you targeted $50 per customer and you're seeing 120. It doesn't really matter how many impressions you're getting if that's not profitable for you. So you have to compare that to your LTV, lifetime value of a customer, because that's essentially where you know what your overall value of a customer is, you know how much you paid for them, and ideally you know what your profit margin is on that LTV as well. And you've got to make sure that it actually makes sense in the numbers. Just as a side note, with LTV, you need to know what the time period is for that overall value. Because if you spend $200 up front to acquire a customer, even if your LTV is $600, if it takes you 2 years to get there, you might actually have a cash flow issue more than a profitability issue. So again, set acceptable ranges up front, really need to understand what that looks like. And if it falls outside of it, then it has to be troubleshooted through either A/B testing or some other optimization, or you go an entirely different route. Beyond that, conversion quality. So let's say that your conversion is basically a lead, someone who you're getting on the phone with and talking to, or your sales team is, but what is the conversion rate and are they even qualified? So you need to track this in your CRM generally. Any CRM would work. And you would essentially want to map the source of the lead to wherever they came from. So let's say that you're running a Google campaign, a Facebook campaign. You would want to map it to wherever that lead came from through ideally the tracking pixels. And then from there, you'd want to track what the actual conversion rate is and have some way to track either through filters or anything else who is unqualified. And then as far as iterations, you really need to have a partner in this for your marketing firm that has an experimental mindset. What I mean by that is they need to be able to come up with experiments similar to like high school. So if then because if we go and target this group of people with this ad set, I expect it to be better because of XYZ. You can do that with A/B testing, where you're just comparing two groups against each other, where you're testing one variable at a time, or you could test an entire channel separately and then use A/B testing to refine it. Generally, that's going to be the most systematic approach. Some ad companies, they do a little bit more of a like general refinement model without A/B testing. Personally, I would recommend if you can find someone who's willing to do A/B testing and really refine things in a systematic approach to go that route. Now that we've got kind of an understanding of reporting, the other part of this is managing the relationship. So good agencies do good work, but it's generally one of those things where it's garbage in, garbage out. You need to have good input. It helps to have like Loom video where if you're giving feedback to them, you could share your screen, showcase exactly what it is that you're giving feedback on. Let's say hypothetically you've got a banner ad and you want to give feedback on that. It's almost always better to do it in video form with Loom versus typing out a really long email because that increases your likelihood of misunderstanding. And then as far as stand-ups, so this is going to be your meeting cadence, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. You want to generally start out with asking a few questions. So what worked, what didn't, and what is changing this week? And that what is changing this week is really their chance to shine and show you that they have that experimental mindset. Last but not least, red flags. So what do you have to watch out for when you're dealing with a marketing agency? So there's 3 red flags that I've noticed. For one, if they stop asking questions. So a good agency, they always want context. They want to learn the business. And if they're getting to the point where they're silent on that and they're not really like engaging about how they can do better for the business and how it all works, that's a bad sign usually. Second one, they don't share raw data access. Basically, if you can't actually see the ads account, Google Analytics, anything directly, that's generally going to be a bad sign because that generally means that you're kind of in the dark. And then also if they're blaming leads, or the target market, like, is there something wrong with the people that you're targeting? That's kind of a very open-ended question, and it's hard to kind of prove one way or another. But the best way to do that is to look at competitors. So if you have competitors who are paying $10 for a keyword per click, for example, that's kind of an extreme situation for most markets, but let's say they are. That's going to indicate that there's a lot of value in those clicks. And if you're going after the same group and not getting conversions, then there's something wrong and it needs to be further optimized, either the marketing campaign or even your offering. But there is definitely something to optimize there versus just blaming the targeting. And then knowing when to fire, let's say that you aren't getting results or the results you're getting are too expensive per acquisition, you have to be willing to treat them like vendors. Keep them accountable to, are they hitting their agreed metrics? Are they being proactive or reactive? And are you spending more time cleaning up after them rather than focusing on growth and really the rest of your company? Because that's why you hire this marketing agency versus learning Google and Facebook ads yourself. It's to have experts come in and grow it for you instead of you having to learn every little detail about marketing. Also, just a side note, if you are managing multiple vendors, so let's say that you have a ads agency and then separately a web design agency and separately an SEO agency, you can have issues with siloing information. So this is generally going to be good to have some sort of cross-agency sync where 15 to 30 minute call, everyone needs to share what they're doing so the others are not in the dark. And that way you can have a good holistic picture of what's going on and then the individual agencies are cooperating. It also helps to have weekly scorecard metrics. So your web design team is going to obviously have different scorecards than your marketing teams, but something to really understand what is going on at a glance. And then having a Slack channel for all vendors is usually helpful as well, where they can all see what is going on with each other. The idea here is not to overwhelm them with a bunch of irrelevant information for them, but they need to have an understanding of, okay, if we're making landing pages for the SEO team, how does that involve the pay-per-click team? That type of thing. And if you have all that siloed, it's up to you to communicate everything, and it leads to a lot of potential for mistakes or misunderstandings. So if you're looking to hire a marketing agency, just remember they're not a magic bullet. They are a partner, and they should be saving you the effort of having to learn all of this on your own. But you still have to manage them. You still have to work with them. They're not going to go and pull a rabbit out of a hat when it comes to your marketing. So set clear expectations, measurable outcomes. And if you do need help understanding how to deal with a marketing agency, if you've hit any sort of snag with one, feel free to book a consultation with me at ZacharySenz.com. And if you got value from this video, definitely like and subscribe. It really does help out this channel and help us keep growing.